Hi, welcome back to Rabbit Recaps. The movie starts late at night. A man named Driss is driving his boss, Philippe, through the city. While they are stuck in traffic, Driss gets bored and starts driving very fast. He doesn't follow the traffic rules and goes around other cars quickly. Because of this, the police start chasing them. Driss says he can escape the police and bets 100 euros. But after going under a bridge, the police catch them by blocking the road from both sides. Still, Driss is not scared. The police tell Driss to get out of the car, and he starts pretending. He acts upset and says that Philippe cannot move and he was rushing him to the hospital. The officers believe him after they see a wheelchair in the car. When they look at Philippe, they see him shaking like he's not well, but this is just part of their act. Since it looks like an emergency, the police decide not to give Driss a ticket and instead offer to escort them to the hospital. Driss is happy he won the bet, so he plays the song. When they reach their destination and the police leave, Driss and Philippe enjoy a smoke together to celebrate. Driss then quickly drives away before the hospital staff can stop them. This friendship between Driss and Philippe actually started many months earlier. At that time, Philippe and his assistant Magali were doing interviews to find a new caretaker for Philippe. But the interviews weren't going well because most people gave boring or strange answers. Then, Driss suddenly walks in, even though it's not his turn. He doesn't want the job. He just wants them to sign a paper saying he was rejected so he can get unemployment money. Driss flirts with Magali, but Philippe thinks he's funny and tells him to come back the next day to get his signed papers. Driss goes home to a small house. He tries to take a bath, but his younger siblings keep bothering him. But his sister Mina helps. While waiting for their mother to come home, Driss looks out the window and sees his brother Adama getting out of a car that looks suspicious. When Adama comes, he quickly says he was at school and leaves again after picking up his bag. Later that evening, their mother comes home. But his mom is not happy to see him. She's upset because he left for 6 months without calling, and now he returns like her house is a hotel. She tells him to leave and not come back because she has other children to take care of. The next day, Driss goes to Philippe's house to get the paper he asked for. A housekeeper named Yvonne welcomes him and gives him a tour. She shows him Philippe's daily routine and even the room Driss would stay in, which has its own bathroom. Driss looks at the room for a while before going to meet Philippe. Philippe gives him the signed paper and jokes that Driss won't even last 2 weeks. Driss then moves into his new room and starts learning how to help Philippe. He is taught how to take care of Philippe, how to move him into his wheelchair, and how to help him with showering and changing clothes. Things get a little uncomfortable for Driss when he finds out that part of his job is cleaning him after he uses the bathroom. Even though Driss complains and says he won't do these tasks, he eventually agrees and does them. Over time, Driss gets used to taking care of Philippe, even though he makes some small mistakes at first. He gives Philippe the phone instead of holding it to his ear. He also learns to sort Philippe's mail into folders. He's allowed to open most of them, but there are some private letters he isn't allowed to read. When Driss finds a flyer about female escorts, instead of throwing it away like Philippe says, he makes a separate folder for those too. One morning, Yvonne comes to Driss's room to tell him off for being late. While there, she finds some dangerous weapons in his bag, but she doesn't say anything about them. That day, Driss is supposed to drive Philippe around. He refuses to put Philippe in the back of a van. Instead, he chooses one of the fancy cars that no one uses much. At first, Philippe says they should be practical and use the van, but he soon gets excited about the idea of a faster, more fun ride. Yvonne still doesn't agree with it. When they try to drive out of the building, a neighbor has parked his car right in front of the entrance. Driss grabs the man by the front of his shirt and threatens him until he moves his car. Philippe is impressed by how Driss handled the man, but Yvonne, as usual, doesn't approve. Later, they go to a museum where Philippe wants to buy a piece of art. Driss doesn't understand why. It looks like just a red spot on the canvas, and he thinks it's a waste of money. After the museum, Philippe meets with a relative who says the family is worried about Driss. They found out he has a criminal record and can be violent. But Philippe isn't bothered by that. He likes Driss because Driss treats him like a normal person and jokes with him instead of feeling sorry for him. Later, he has dinner with Yvonne in the kitchen while they listen to Philippe dictating a letter. Yvonne turns off the baby monitor, saying it's private. Then she explains that Philippe has been writing letters to a woman named Eleanor. Those are the private letters Driss wasn't allowed to open. Philippe and Eleanor have never met in person. They only write to each other. Before going to sleep, Driss jokes with Yvonne about how the gardener always looks at her, teasing her about it. While trying to sleep, Driss hears strange sounds from the baby monitor. Philippe is having trouble breathing. At first, Driss tries to ignore it, but he can't. He goes to Philippe's room and gently helps him calm down, using wet cloth to wipe his face. Philippe slowly falls asleep, but then wakes up again a little later saying he needs some air. This time, Driss doesn't wait. He puts Philippe in his wheelchair, wraps him in blankets, and takes him outside for a walk by the river. It's the first time in a long while that Philippe has seen the city at night. Feeling calmer now, Philippe tells Driss that sometimes, even with medicine, he feels pain in parts of his body that are no longer. When Philippe starts to feel phantom pain again, Driss offers him a joint to smoke. At first, Philippe is unsure, but he tries it and ends up enjoying it. Later, they go to a restaurant and have fun joking while eating together. Philippe then shares more about his past. He met his wife when they were both students. After getting married, she had 5 miscarriages and was later diagnosed with a terminal illness. That's when they decided to adopt their daughter Elisa. Philippe says he always loved challenges, extreme sports, and speed, especially paragliding. But one day, during a flight, bad weather made him crash and break his spine. Still, he says the wheelchair isn't his biggest problem. The real pain is living without his wife. Then he remembers the date and realizes Driss has finished his 1-month trial. Now, Driss is officially hired. But first, he needs to bring back the Faberge egg he stole because it was a special gift from Philippe's wife. She gave him one every year, and he has 25 eggs in total, one for each year they were together. The next day, Driss talks to Mina when she leaves school. She is a little upset because Driss hasn't answered her messages except to ask about the egg. She also tells him that the police have been calling their home. Then, Driss visits Adama, who admits he was caught with 30 grams of something. Driss tries to take him to lunch, but Adama refuses and gets into the same suspicious car from before. Later, Driss is allowed to listen while Philippe dictates a letter to Eleanor for Magali. Driss thinks the letter is boring, surprised to learn they have been writing letters for 6 months but never sent pictures. When Driss finds Eleanor's phone number in a letter, he calls her. Philippe takes the phone and talks to her for the first time. Their conversation goes so well that Philippe talks to her on the phone all the time, even before he and Driss go to the opera. At the opera, Driss laughs and makes fun of the costumes. The next day, Driss convinces Philippe to send a picture to Eleanor, choosing a photo of Philippe in his wheelchair. While Driss is painting, Elisa comes into the room and makes fun of his painting. Angry, he tells her to leave. Then, he goes to see Philippe, who is asking Yvonne to change the picture to one of him before he was in the wheelchair. Yvonne hides the picture in the folder just before Driss comes in complaining about Elisa. He tells Philippe that Elisa needs to be disciplined, and Yvonne agrees. Philippe agrees to talk to Elisa, but he is surprised when Driss accidentally reveals that he has been painting. Days go by, and Philippe and Driss become better friends. Driss takes Philippe to play in the snow and even brings him when he goes for a run. When Driss finishes his first painting, he shows it to Magali, but she slaps him when he tries to kiss her. Philippe likes the painting and promises to try to sell it. When Philippe's birthday comes, he is not very happy. Every year, he acts surprised at the party and has to meet relatives who only come to check if he is still alive. He says the party will be boring. While the guests enjoy live classical music, Driss looks for Elisa. He finds her crying in her room because she took some pills that won't hurt her like she thought. She is sad because her boyfriend, Bastien, broke up with her. Elisa asks Driss to talk to Bastien, and Driss agrees, but only for a price. Meanwhile, Philippe shows Driss's painting to a relative and convinces him to buy it. Driss talks with Yvonne, who tells him Magali has a boyfriend, but their relationship is difficult. This gives Driss some hope. When the party is ending, Philippe makes Driss listen to famous classical music, but Driss just jokes. After the band finishes, Driss plays Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind and Fire and starts dancing in the middle of the floor. He is a great dancer and even gets other guests to dance with him. Philippe enjoys watching this. Later, when Driss is putting Philippe to bed, he opens the latest letter from Eleanor. She has sent a picture of herself. She looks very pretty and says they should meet next week when she visits Paris. On the day of the date, Yvonne and Driss try many outfits on Philippe until they find the perfect one. Since Yvonne will take Philippe to the date, Driss uses his day off to visit Bastien. He threatens Bastien until the boy agrees to apologize to Elisa and bring her croissants every day. He also tells Bastien to fix his hair. After that, Driss visits his mother at work, but only watches her from a distance. Yvonne and Philippe wait for Eleanor, but she is very late. After waiting an hour, Philippe gives up and calls Driss to take him away. He leaves the restaurant without noticing Eleanor is arriving at the same time. That night, Philippe takes Driss on his private plane and gives him the money from selling the painting, making Driss very happy. The next morning, they arrive in the countryside, and Philippe decides to go paragliding, dragging Driss with him. Driss is scared at first, but ends up enjoying it. When they return home, Adama is waiting, so Driss makes him wait in his room and goes to put Philippe to bed. But Philippe isn't sleepy yet. He shows Driss a painting and asks about his family. At first, Driss doesn't want to talk, but then he does. Driss explains that Adama isn't really his brother and his parents aren't really his parents. They are his aunt and uncle. They brought him from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have kids. His real name is Bakary Baysari, but because other kids had that name, they called him Idris, which became Driss. One day, his aunt was able to have kids. Just like Driss talked about Elisa needing discipline, Philippe says Adama needs discipline too. Then Philippe fires Driss so Driss can be with his family. Philippe says he can't spend his whole life taking care of an old man. The next morning, Bastien brings his daily croissant, now with a better haircut. Driss packs his bags and gets ready to leave. Magali comes to say goodbye. In return, Yvonne gives him the escort file he had started. Driss is disappointed to find the photo he chose hidden inside. He throws away the file, but keeps the photo. A few hours later, Driss and Adama go to pick up their mother from the station. Meanwhile, back at the house, Philippe is having his first dinner with his new caretaker, who is boring. Philippe leaves without eating. Days pass, and Driss goes back to his old life. He hangs out with old friends and tells the suspicious car guys to leave Adamo alone. When Driss goes to a job interview for a position he lacks experience for, he impresses the employer by calling himself pragmatic and using the art knowledge he gained from working with Philippe. He gets the job as a driver. Philippe continues to dislike his new caretaker and is often in a bad mood. One night, Philippe refuses help for his phantom pain, so Yvonne calls Driss to come over. This leads to the police chasing them and later taking Philippe to the hospital. After this, Driss drives Philippe to the coast, and the sea helps calm him down. Later, Driss trims Philippe's overgrown beard and takes him to a restaurant for lunch. But Driss doesn't stay. Someone else is going to keep Philippe company today. Driss wishes Philippe luck. Philippe worries about being alone, but then he sees his date, Eleanor. She's happy to see him and doesn't mind his wheelchair at all. And the story ends on this happy note.